Mark, I just have a statement to read and then we'll start the interview.
Okay.
The purpose of the interview here is to hear your story about growing up and living in Star. It's your story to tell. The questions I ask are only designed to help you tell your story. We're probably going to talk maybe up to an hour, but we can stop whenever you wish. And I'll also give you a chance at the end of the interview to add anything you think maybe we missed.
Okay.
Okay. So could you introduce yourself, where you were born, and when you came to Star?
Yeah, my name's Marcus Ross. I was born in Boise in 1943. My dad moved out to Star in 1945 when I was about 2 years old, and went to work for Harry Hoffman, who ran a Hoffman Chevron Station, which is on the south side of the road across from the present Merc. Went to grade school at Star. I had an aunt and uncle that lived in a big colonial type house across from the grade school. The house is still there. I think it's on a historical thing now. And back in those days, there wasn't a lot to do in town, so you're out in the streets trying to play ball or roller skate or find something to do to occupy your time. And Star had about 300 people, as I remember back then. Now we're pushing over 12,000, something like that. Crazy. The apartment we lived in was right behind the Hoffman Chevron Station, which is now kind of a social bar or some kind, I guess. And Harry's apartment was behind that one. That one's still there. But they expanded tore the station down, they expanded it to build the bar and make more room. Played grade school sports when I was going to school, and we went to junior high in Eagle. There was a building downtown just before you go up the hill on Eagle Road. That's where Eagle Junior High was. I think all the stuff now is a gymnasium. So bus trip between here and there. Lots of horseback riding. When I was a kid, my dad had 3 or 4 head of horses here, and I spent a lot of hours out in the foothills where Hillsdale is, and north of Canadian Lane and stuff. We're chasing jackrabbits and all kinds of stuff on horses. And grew up there, got involved in Boy Scouts when I was about 11 years old, and did a lot of stuff in that through the early 50s, and eventually got an Eagle Scout award, and spent some time doing scouting at future years. And my dad, as I mentioned, he was instrumental in starting the Star Fire Department. He's the first chief and pretty much put that whole thing together. And later on in his life, he saw the need to create a sewer system, so he met with whoever had to do that, and they put together the Star Sewer System, which has expanded quite a bit now. And then there used to be irrigation coming here to take care of all these farms that were through here, and he was on that irrigation board for a long time because he had one guy in town that knew just about everything, so he was looked up to quite a bit.
Did you have siblings?
I had one sister that was my real sister, just 2 years younger than me. Then my real mother passed away in, I don't know, 47 or 48, somewhere in there. And my dad remarried, and that lady had two boys, so I had 2 stepbrothers. And one of them, as he got older, became real active in the fire department with Dad, and then eventually became the fire chief in Boise for 25, 30 years. And he still lives in Boise and retired from that.
Excuse me, I'm jumping around questions here. So you mentioned that you did a lot of playing in the streets. You also mentioned sports. So first of all, what kind of sports did you play?
Well, when I was little, I played basketball and baseball, and Soccer wasn't around then, and so in junior high I played basketball and baseball, and then got to high school and played a little tennis and tried to play some basketball, but this wasn't very big, so I stopped doing that and ended up playing a lot of church basketball and softball. Went to college up at the University of Idaho. I was going to be a forest ranger. And I got up there and found out you had to have all kinds of chemistry classes, and I didn't have chemistry in high school, so I said, this isn't going to work. So I came home and was complaining to my mom, and she said, well, you've always been real good about getting things together and organize games and stuff for different people. And so I looked into being a history teacher and a phys ed teacher and did that, and ended up coaching high school basketball and tennis and helping with football, and refereed basketball for high school and college for about 20 years, and just tried to stay busy making a living.
Where did you go to college to become a history teacher?
I went to the University of Idaho. Mm-hmm. Back then, Boise BJC was just starting a junior college, and about three of us ran around together. That's where we wanted to go to school, so we went up there, and so I got a bachelor's degree from there and 2 master's degrees, and one was in administration, so I ended up in athletic administration eventually, and did that for about 35 years, and became a big part of my life.
When you're playing outdoors, you were talking about playing in the streets and stuff. What did you do during winters?
Winter? Well, back then, when it snowed, it stayed on the road long enough that you could take a car or put a tube behind it or something, pull up and down these roads and these foothills between here and Emmett. You go out there and have tubing parties and all kinds of things like that. And of course, in the spring, we played baseball wherever we could find a place to set up a field and do it. Usually my dad's pasture. And in this area out here east where Heron River is, from here to the Emmett Highway, that used to be just a forest. And my dad had a gate right out here on his back fence. I'd take my horse through there, and I'd go out there and chase deer and all kinds of things. We had scout outings out there, and this city building down there on the corner, what they call it now, but that house, for the house there was a well there, an artesian well. So you could go out there and camp and hike over the well and get the water you needed. And it was a great place to grow up because there's all kinds of things to do, and not too many people to bother you.
You mentioned your dad had cattle, so he worked at and later owned the gas station?
Yeah, he worked for Harry Hoffman for a couple of years, and then he purchased it, and then him and one of his cousins were the operators of it, and he did that for about 33 years, I think, and while he was doing that, he was accumulating cattle here. His house is right next to the north of us, a brown one, and he had 10 acres here, and eventually about 30 acres for subdivisions. Right next door is, forgot the name of it. And then just north of the school, he bought 70 acres there, farmed it, and then over here where Celestial Village is, I think there was 40 acres there that was his. And so he kept busy with cattle and farming for quite a while after he retired from the station.
What kind of crops did he raise?
Well, right over this church is set, and you can't believe it's an old riverbed through here. It's rocky, but he raised corn on there. He raised a lot of mint and hay once in a while, but mostly mint and corn. I don't ever remember putting up hay for him. I worked for a lot of farmers when I was a teenager hauling hay, but Dad never raised much hay. It was either corn or grain or mint. A lot of mint came on big time back then, and it was a big cash crop. A lot of people around here got involved with it, and he did that.
Well, there was a lot of farms around here, and I understand there was a lot of time produce trucks running up and down the roads, potatoes, onions, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, it's kind of funny because when I grew up farmers were making a living off of a 60 or 80 acre farm. You know, they had cattle and chicken and pigs and a little bit of ground, and mostly it was milk check. And of course, that eventually went away, and bigger outfits started coming in and taking over. But milk trucks were running all over the place, and a few produce trucks, yeah.
So a lot of agriculture around here
Yes.
at that time. You said you worked, helped putting up hay and stuff. Did you have other work you did when you were around here?
Well,
I'm thinking specifically as when you were a kid in high
yeah,
school.
usually there's a guy between here and Eagle named Kwong. He raised strawberries. His whole place is full of houses now, but when I was about 10 or 11 years old, they started picking strawberries for him during the summer. Did that a couple of summers, and then got big enough that I could fix fence or do things for different farmers. And I don't know who you've talked to yet so far in town. There's one of the people on your list, I think, is Doug Willis.
We're going to see him.
His dad had a 30,000 chicken farm right in the middle of town, right behind Doug's house. And well, Doug's daughter's house now, but I worked for him for about 3 summers, building roosts and helping with chickens and feeding chickens once a day for quite a while. So that was a big time job. And then when I wasn't there, I was usually out hauling hay for some farmer someplace or fixing fence. And it seems like I've been working ever since I was about 10 years old and still doing it.
Would you describe what Star looked like, your memories of what it looked like when you were growing up?
Well, like I said, my dad's station was on the south side of town where it used to be Sam's Saloon, but that's not the name of it anymore. That was there, and then the Merc has been there forever. It faced south onto State Street. And like I told you earlier on one of those pictures, there's eventually had a barber shop, and there's a tavern and a cafe, and down where that trailer place is, that makes trailers, there's a little Conoco station there and food store, and there's a Star Motel was right behind that. And pretty basic one-way street through town. Everything else, all side of town was gravel. All the roads were gravel, both north and south. But seems like we always had found plenty to do.
You went to in high school. What were your favorite subjects, or what were your memories from that?
Well, I went to high school at Meridian. It's part of the Meridian School
Okay.
District back then.
Back then, okay.
And if you know where the post office is in Meridian, right east of that, there's a big building they call Cold Christian now. Mm-hmm. That was Meridian High School. My my sophomore, junior years were in that building. Then they built a new high school where Meridian Middle School is, but that eventually burnt down, so they built another one where it is now. But I was involved in it, and agriculture, and I raised some pigs and stuff like that here. I had pictures a long time ago of little Yorkshire pigs. They're going up this road clear up to where the gas pumps are for the Merc. That's where my dad's station was in, and they crossed the highway. And it couldn't keep them penned up. They're just everywhere. But it gave me something to do and play around with. But then I got involved in a lot of church sports and got doing that. When I went to college, I spent a lot of time in the gymnasium with varsity basketball because I always knew I wanted to be a coach eventually, and so I better start learning this when I can. And fortunately, when I was up there, I had a PE professor that must have liked me or something, because a couple of days there was a student teacher or something for the college that didn't make it, so he says, "Can you come and take this PE class?" And I says, "Well, yeah, I'll do it," and did that for a while. And one year he came and said, "Moscow High School wants to start a tennis team. They don't have a coach or anybody. We got a lady that's a counselor. She wants to be the go-between, but how about coming to coach in tennis?" And I played a little bit, but not too much. And so I started the tennis program at Moscow High School and brought a bunch of kids to state the first year, and that program took off. And It was great on my resume. Helped me get hired later on.
And you came back to this area to work then as
Well,
a
I
teacher?
spent 8 years in a little town called Pilot Rock, Oregon, just south of Pendleton. That's where my first job was, and that's where I was a high school basketball coach and tennis coach and assistant football coach. And my junior high principal had been at Eagle, kept trying to get me back to work, go to work for him. So one year I just decided, okay, it's time to come back. So I moved back here in '75 and taught driver's training for 3 years with 3 other guys over where Marion Junior High is. There used to be a driving range there. We had 8 cars on the range and all kinds of highway markings and stuff, so they'd learn how to do it. And then one person directed those cars from the tower over through the radio. One of us was in the classroom and 2 people were out on the highway, and we rotated. And one year I'm walking down the hall at Lowell Scott, and the principal says, "How'd you like to be head of the PE department here, my athletic director?" I said, "I'd love it." And so he got me started on that, and then I had a super career that started out in athletics for about 35 years. I was involved in the state really heavily and on the national board of directors for 3 years and a bunch of different committees, and eventually I got put in the Hall of Fame. And athletics was kind of my life once I got moved in here. Yeah.
Wow. What are your favorite memories then, growing up here?
Well, we always had horses, so every spring we'd move the cattle from here to about 3 miles west of town at the Kingsbury, where the foothills are out there. And there's houses up there now, but that's where he put his cows in the springtime because the cheatgrass was very high, and that was always a big thing. And then just the kids in town always had plenty to do, and like I said, I was always working, so I was damn pretty busy doing things. And Mary Kolsky, you already interviewed, I think her and my mom were real good friends, or my stepmom, and so they were always had something going on and played a lot of cards, a lot of pinochle, that kind of thing. And Dad was he liked to elk hunt, and every year him and his brother and a couple 3 other people would take a load of horses and head up to the Selway out of Grangeville and go up there for a week and hunt elk, and usually we're pretty successful. So some of those things, and like I say, I just was involved in a lot of church sports that came after work each day.
It's pretty unusual to have you have a town here. I mean, the idea of when you were growing up, the horses and cattle, the chicken farm and all that, really all of that activity was going on in town, which is...
So pretty close. This road right out here, when there used to just be fields over there, my dad had his horses had a halter on, and we'd chain them up to a fence post. That's how they kept down all the weeds and grass along the side of the roads for here about half a mile. So we'd chain those 2 or 3 horses up out there every day. And yeah, and like I said, everybody had some amount of cows and chickens and pigs and stuff and town wasn't incorporated back then, so didn't have to deal with those kind of problems. But it's changed a lot in growing sense. There used to be where the gas pumps are for the Merc now, right north of that, there used to be a flour mill. And then I told you about the big bank building that used to sit across the road and had the post office in it. One of my aunt's daughters was postmistress, and she did that she passed away. And then when Dad helped out when he retired, my mom helped out with you talking to Kay Hemlick too? Kay Hemlick was postmaster where the building is now. And my mom and Dad worked in there, helped her out a lot, just because she was a great lady. And after I got back here from to start teaching school in Meridian, While I was going to college, I spent 4 summers on a fire lookout back in the primitive area in Idaho on the Salmon River, 10,000-foot mountain, about a 16 by 16 building. That's where you did all your cooking, everything, and watched for fire. The only work you had was packing water and wood and watching for fires. And 3rd year, I was married. My wife went up. We had an 18-year-old daughter. I put a chain link fence around the catwalk, and she learned to walk on that catwalk up there. And then I got back here in '75 and was lucky enough to get on with the Bureau of Land Management, fighting fires. And I drove a tanker truck for them for a few summers, and then eventually had my own crew and did that for about 30 summers. Just great job, great pay, and lots of exciting times.
What are the biggest changes that you've seen, the things that made the biggest impression on you that have changed in Star?
In Star? Well, obviously the fire department, the sewer district, for sure. And then you sat and watched them put a bypass past Eagle, and you kept wondering, there's not a place to do that in Star. They've talked about it quite a bit. I don't think they've ever come up with anything yet, but I was just hoping Star would never become an Eagle. We've got a lot of houses, more houses than businesses probably, but I don't visualize it turning into a metropolitan place like Eagle. Maybe when I'm gone, I don't know. Just don't want it to be. It's always the last little rural community in Ada County. Star and Kuna used to be it, and Kuna's way past it now, and Star's starting to get there. But I hated to see all these houses come in and take up all this good farmland, but you knew that was how they were retiring. They didn't have much options.
Being in Star, rural community in Idaho, which is somewhat of an isolated state, how did you see world events going on around you? What made an impression on you, or that you thought were impacting things here in Star?
Well, when I was real little, I probably didn't think much about that stuff, but when I went to college, they had ROTC. It was mandatory for everybody at the University of Idaho. And I thought at one time, if I got to go in, I want to be a Marine. But things just worked out, and it never happened. I got up there, student, so they deferred you a little bit, and then I got married, and they deferred you some more, and had a child, and they deferred you some more, and then everything was pretty much gone. So I just kind of missed the whole thing without even trying hard, but what's going on out there was always an important thing in my mind. I'd like things to be right, and they're certainly not that way now.
What was it like raising your I don't know how many kids you have.
I have 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls, and 3 of them were born one in Moscow, and then 3 were born in Pendleton. And one went to grade school in Pilot Rock for a few years, and then coming here, but it's pretty, back then there were no T-ball or young things for kids to do, so they pretty much had that to go on until the youngest one, I think, finally got involved in some baseball teams when he was a little older, but the older ones didn't have that opportunity. They went to school and tried what they liked, but they were good kids and all went to school, married well, and they're doing well.
Good place to raise kids, though?
Yes, great place to raise kids. Yeah. And this old, you go down the end of this road where the big cement thing is. There used to be a bridge there across the river. That's the town swimming hole forever. And a lot of swimming goes on down there.
Is your wife from this area?
Well, she grew up was born down in Burley and Malad, and then her dad was a dry farmer, and we eventually went to Post Falls, Idaho. So that's where she went to high school, and met her at the University of Idaho. She had a sister that lived there, and she was down staying with her sister and helping her out at a cafe there one time, and went in and met her, but she put me through the ringers trying to find out her name. Her name was Marvine, and her dad's name was Marvin, and her mom's name was Irene. And she said, my name's made up of two names. So I went back to the university and I got out all the yearbooks, and I went down and wrote down every name I could find, like Mary Lou, Mary Beth, or whatever. Took it back to her where she was at, and I said, I think I got it. No, you don't. So that's how it all started.
See, what was the most? What have been the most interesting or exciting changes you've seen in Star?
In Star, well,
you mentioned the fire department and the sewer district.
yeah, well, they're two of the biggest ones for sure. And then the growth now. I mean, the growth's taken over everything, and that's had a big impact on the Star itself. And the school district has grown tremendously. You know, when I first came back here, there was one high school in Meridian. When I was in high school, the Cole Road in Boise was the western boundary of Boise. Everything west was farmland. Now, Meridian's got 6 high schools with about 2,000 kids in each one, and all kinds of special schools and charter schools, and people have found the secret. It's out.
Now that my granddaughters have gone to school in Meridian, and it just, when we first came down, it was still pretty much everything west of Cole Road was farmland.
Yeah.
Ask one thing. So you said the secret's out, but what about what?
About Star. What a great place it is to be, to live and raise kids and stuff. It's just, for a long time, it just didn't grow much. And it's changed. I mean, it's almost solid houses from here to the foothills. And I never thought we'd had a McDonald's here and an Albertsons. Now Burger King's getting ready to build a store down there by Albertsons, and big, huge truck car wash down there. And yeah, well-kept secrets no longer.
You mentioned you were in Boy Scouts. Were you part of any other organizations, either as a kid or as an adult?
Well, as a kid, just when I was real young, I kind of helped out the volunteers at the fire department with my dad, but my brother kind of got into that real heavy, and I got so involved in athletics and stuff like that that I was involved in that sort of thing rather than community didn't have anything back then, and so now they do. But I guess I'm old enough now, I don't have a lot of patience anymore for some of it.
I kind of think run through what I had. You guys have any other questions?
So how long have you lived in this house itself, in Star?
We came back to here in '75 and rented a house over on Star Road, and this house was built in '75 and we moved in '76. So I've been here 40-some years, I guess. In Star, my dad moved here when I was 2, so I've been here, I guess there's 78 total years, but 8 of those years I was actually just out of Pendleton, Oregon, before I moved back here. So 72 years probably in Star, something like that.
And then
One of the oldest 5 people here, I think. I'm not oldest, but longest lived here. I don't know what Mary's ahead of me, and I'm sure that Charlene Phillips has been here longer than I was, because she was, like, I remember her when I was a little kid. And then Jane Rayner, I don't know when her and her husband came, but I think I was probably here before they were.
I've done an oral history on her. They came in the 40s.
40s?
They used to live on the farm across from Chinden, not far from Star Road, and then they moved into Star.
Okay, so her and I could be pretty close then. Yeah.
She's 92.
Yeah. And her father used to live right across the road from us here, where this, not the big white house, but so one level, it's back about 3 houses. It used to be her father's house. And everybody kind of looked after everybody and took care of things. And yeah, it was a great place to be.
So how much acreage, I guess, did you have when you were first here?
Myself?
Yes.
Well, that came, my dad deeded me an acre of land right here. And then since then, I've got a little more, because I got an acre and a third now. With this was a big subdivision all the way to the river, 90-foot fronts. Went back about, I don't know, quite a ways back there. But he put down an artesian well over here about 350 some feet. And so I sold his place. I bought that little chunk of land with a well because I want to keep it. And so this house runs off of that well, no pressure, no pump. It's just straight from the well to the house.
Very nice.
Yeah, best water in town. Yeah. Yeah.
So how long ago did they put the church in right next to you?
Well, I'm thinking it was in the early 90s sometime. My dad came to me once and he said, "Would you like to have about 90 houses next to you or an LDS church?" I said, "I'll take the church," because I knew they take care of their property. Always looks nice, and you wouldn't have everybody's kids running all over your place. So I can't remember the date for sure, but sometime in the early 90s, I think. I'm sure if I dug through enough stuff, I could probably find it, but yeah, that's seems like that rings a bell.
Is there anything about Star and living here that we haven't asked about that you think people should know about?
Well, most people must know a little bit about the fact that it's just a pretty good place to be, because like I say, houses are going everywhere and people just keep coming, and growth's going to happen, so we can't slow it down to speak of, but I really hate to see the little rural community kind of disappear, because this used to be the only little rural road left in town until they put the sidewalks down it. And a lot of us fought that for a while, but one of those battles you don't win. So, and
what kind of gatherings do you recall taking place in Star?
well, up on Star Road, there's that big, there's a Quaker church there, and then that side of it, there's a big pavilion building. They used to have a lot of big gatherings in there, and
Revivals?
I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty little, but yeah, probably so. And then where that other Christian church is there across the middle one, just as you turn on Star Road, it's on the right, Life Church.
Life Spring.
Yeah, that was a smaller building back then, but they had a lot of activities there then too. And out south, east of town, there's a Grange Hall, kind of sits back there, and nobody claims it anymore, but it used to be Saturday night dances there all the time. That was a big place for community to go on the Saturday nights. And Moyles Mink Ranch, that's been there since I can remember. They used to raise a lot of mink there, and now it's all storage buildings. storage units and stuff, but just I gotta think back. Now it's pretty much been a quiet little town for most of its life, but starting to pick up a little.
Mark, we have photographed the barns because we'd like to do a little book, an exhibit eventually on the barn since it was an agriculture area. Is there anyone who's a good resource that Dean can use when we get to that project?
For barns?
The barns, we have photographed about 25, 30 barns that are still left. We have about, I guess, 20 we photographed. And it would be nice if there's somebody who could talk about the barns, who'd be a resource.
So what?
They're different styles, and
What are some that you still have?
well, if you go out state, right, we photographed the Kinzer barn. We have photographed. I should have brought the booklet. Maybe I do.
You
have
photographed the barn over by the mink farm that is red
Yeah.
on the
Oh.
north side of State Street, and about maybe 2 blocks east of the I guess City Hall now. On the right, there's a home off to the right, but there's also a barn in the pasture to the left
Right.
of that. I don't know if you've gotten that.
I've gotten them all, and I've got the booklet in my car.
That's all right. Well, that's one that's just right there,
Yeah, we've
east of
gotten
town a little bit.
We've gotten that one.
Kirtley probably would know
That was hard to
a
find.
lot about it because they lived in that house just for that barn for a long time.
Do you mean Jack or Butch?
Well, his folks lived there.
Okay.
Their folks lived there, and they were first born. They were in this house down here on Main Street. That's on State Street. That's called the Diamond Place or something. Big house pointed up real high.
Yeah.
That's where Butch and Jack grew up,
Okay.
and their grandfather lived in that house just between there and the car wash. And Moyles know a lot about the red one down there because that was on their property.
Okay.
The 2 really big ones are gone now. There used to be one. You go you go north of town where that silo is.
Yeah. Yeah.
There used to be a big, huge barn there.
We're salvaging the remains.
Well-
We didn't start soon enough.
And my dad owned that place for a while.
Oh.
And
Now, what did he use that? Was that a hay barn?
yeah.
Okay.
And then there's farther down the street on the west side, there's another big barn like that that's missing now. It's gone too. There used to be 2 big barns on that road.
Do you have any pictures from your father's farm? Your father's barn?
Not that I recall. I'd have
Okay,
to start digging. If I find one, I'll get hold of it.
Yeah, I'll be right back. I'm going to show you the booklet that we've done. Hold on, I'll be right back.
Are we still on here?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
are we done? Is that what he's?
I mean, we're pretty much done. I didn't know if there's anything else that we wanted to.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just
Well, I do want to ask a question because you made reference to something when Chip was talked about gatherings, and you said the church they used to have dances there. Did you and your friends go to the dances?
that's too little in. My dad and mom went a lot. That wasn't a church down there. It was a lodge building of some kind. My dad was in charge of the Masons over at Meridian for a while. He's busy. And then the fire department, the sewer department, the ditch thing. And but we didn't have any dances in town that I went to as a kid. First ones would have been church dances as we got to be teenagers and stuff like that. But
And there'd be dances over in Meridian that you would have.
Meridian and Boise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to go clear to Boise sometimes. Yeah.
These are the ones that we photographed. Now, Dave McClellan, who will be calling you to come and get a still photograph of you, is taking professional shots with like morning and evenings. Some shots are better depending where the sun comes up. But we have done, Jane and I have gone out and we photographed all these to have them. And I've taken about 6 shots of every barn that we'll have for archives for the city of Star. But it would be nice if somebody was an authority about some of the styles that were built and why they were built, because some have that real strange, they come sharp up, then they go out, and then they go down. So I've noticed the architecture varies, and
I'll tell you
that
what,
was Charlene's barn over there, where the horses are, right after you cross the river on the right.
okay. Oh, right,
Yeah.
yeah. It's kind of starting to fall down now.
Jane knew the way, so we went to all those addresses and found them, and she helped me locate them, and I hopped out of the truck, parked on the side of the road to get these pictures. I've got about 5 to 10 pictures of each barn, each of those barns. But Dave is coming around doing a photograph. So we'll have a calendar when we get a museum for the history of Star. We'll have a calendar, and we'll do a little book, because agriculture, barns, people love barns.
Yeah.
Barns have personality, and that would be one of the little books we'll do.
Well,
Barns of Star.
Talk about personality. They, you go up Star Road where it turns into Robinson, and up over the hill there's a airport road comes in, and there's a barn sits out there. The house that was with it, they've tore down because they're making a roundabout. But some couple of people up there got that barn put on historical things, so they wouldn't tear it down. And it's quite a ways out of Star, but that happens.
If you go to Chinden, do you turn left and it's on the right?
No, if you go
Further
up where I'm talking, you got to go
Near I-84.
across Franklin, across I-84.
I have photographed those barns because they're so extraordinary. I went out and photographed them.
Yeah.
I've got them in the collection. I feel like it's not right in Star, but it's part of the Star environment. So I have gotten those, yeah. I was following that story.
And whoever, I mean, I can't think of anybody that's still alive that might be able to answer your question about some of those barns, because
If it comes to your mind, let us know, because that would be real helpful.
Yeah, I've heard that one of the favorite pastimes in Star in the past was car races. Do you recall that?
well, I don't recall.
Races?
There were horse races on the 4th of July, but I think that stopped in the early 40s.
Yeah, Star used to have a little rodeo club. You go down to Joplin, turn right on Joplin, and just before you start up the little hill, there's a big pond there. But there used to be a rodeo rink there and a cafe, and it's all gone now. But used to have rodeos there on the weekends, and the barn is. I don't know if you ever got a hold of this barn or not, but the one that was closest to town used to sit right down at the end of Canada Lane on the highway. And the guy bought it and moved it to Sweet. And it's sitting out there. He did a great job. It's still up there on the hill in Sweet.
I get up to Sweet sometimes.
So,
I take my grandchildren out on outings and adventures.
okay, well, if you're coming out of
Where is it?
if you're coming out of Emmett toward Sweet,
Yeah,
you know where that Roy Stone Hot Springs is.
yeah.
Right before you get to that, on the right-hand side, there's a big, huge house up on the side of the hill.
Okay.
And there's a big barn up there with it. And that barn was moved from Canada Lane to there.
Okay. Wow.
And it's,
They had to go up a hill to get that moved. I can't imagine, because that's where you start to climb to get to the
yeah,
reservoir.
yeah.
This state, nothing to do with the interview, but I'm a historian, a church historian for the Episcopal Church in Idaho, and we have 8, 10 churches that have been in at least one other location than where they're at now. The synagogue in Boise got moved up the hill to onto Latah. Just people are big on moving buildings in this state, and big buildings.
Yeah, they do.
The bishop's house out at the prison used to sit where there's a parking garage now for St. Luke's. And that was a big building, too big. It had a lot of stonework on it, and
Yeah.
just,
You might be encouraged to hear that our committee is trying to get the Grange Hall moved to a new location so that it can be preserved.
So they're going to try to preserve everything inside of it.
It was remodeled back around 2007, and they replaced the beams that support the roof. And I mean, it's got the wood floors in it that I think are original.
What I was interested in is I talked to Jackie Kirtley a few years ago about inside of it. There's this big thing coming from the stage. It's got advertising. It's a big, like, it's not a,
no, I was going to guess something here, but
it's not a screen, but I don't think it's, I don't know what it's made out of, but my dad's Hoffman Chevron Station was one of those ads. Star Merc was on those ads, and I didn't want to see that destroyed.
Those are heirlooms and icons for a sense of place for little villages. Did it get destroyed?
I think that's what he was asking when they did the remodel.
I don't know. I think I've been in it since 7. I don't know, but
I don't remember seeing it. Do you remember, Jeff? We've been in it.
it would have been on the east end of it, hanging above the stage.
Okay.
Yeah, there's what looks like a 4x8 panel there that it's behind the stage.
Could be. It's made out of canvas or something. I don't honestly know.
So if it's there, we need to keep it there when we move, and that needs to be part of our exhibit. You can give us a little script to say we will add it to that museum. That'll be inherent. I think we'll need to go for us to get out to Middleton. We're going to the Fosters who now live.
Fosters?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mary's folk.
Yes.
I just have one last thing. Is there anything that you remember, whether it's like a Sunday drive, anything that's like iconic that stands out of what used to be fun to do in Star?
I don't know about used to be. I love Sunday drives, and I've probably been at least 300 miles every direction out of this town that you can go numerous times. When I was a kid, Dad was too busy working, and we're always too busy doing things to do that much, but
Chasing jackrabbits on your horse.
chasing jackrabbits and trying to find some sport to play. Just spent a lot of time working for different farming individuals and helping them with fence and ditches and that sort of thing. Used to be every spring, everybody on a water ditch had to come and help clean it. And they'd start at one end and go to the other. Not anymore. Too many subdivisions and things that foul things up, you know.
Did you all do prescribed burns along the ditches?
What's that?
Prescribed burns to get rid of the riffraff on the sides of the ditches?
No, I mean,
That's how some people.
asparagus used to go wild on the ditch banks. And gooseberry bushes and lots of weeds, of course, but no, I never got into squash and stuff, so my mom never, we just had a little garden and stuff, so it's about last year was the first year in about 40-some years I haven't had a garden. My back is so bad, hurts to, this feels good right here, but once I get them start moving around, it'll be back.
Well, you're amazing, Mark.
Talk about McCall. I had a friend down at Middleton I grew up with that his folks had a cabin on the lake up there, around by the scout camp.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, you had to put your boat in downtown by the old sawmill.
Right.
And drive that sucker around there. And my birthday was the 28th of May, and we always decided we were going to water ski on my birthday. and it was cold.
That was cold.
I swam in that lake. As soon as the ice got off the lake, I'd started swimming, and I can tell you the first week of June,
Oh, yeah.
I would come out of the water after a half-hour swim and barely able to walk, and I'd slur my speech because
Yeah.
I had hypothermia. That water was so cold.
Well, we were younger and crazier then, so
There'd be ice on the lake in
something
May.
we did. But and there was a guy that had named Parbury. He was a professor up at the University of Idaho. He had a place around on the lake. I can't remember what it's called. It must have been a summer camp of some kind. I don't know, but yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
And remember, Dave McClellan will probably call you and
Okay.
I'll be sending you a script, a written script that you all will have. And if there are any questions or things you want to change, you can just call me and we'll tend to it.
Have you talked to Lynn Moyle?
I
No. Lynn Moyle, that's
oh,
Mike Moyle's wife.
Mom.
Mom, yeah.
Okay.
She's got, we're LDS, and she wrote a big history of Star for the church. And she should have that someplace.
oh,
And
oh, wow. What, did you see it in the archives when you went through the bin?
There were 2 or 3 histories there, but I don't recall seeing
I don't
one by
either.
her.
Wow. We will track that down.
her husband's one who owned the Mink Ranch, and they're still there, that brick house on Plummer.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
next to the cornfield.
yeah. That first house is you turn right on Plummer.
Yeah, it kind of sits diagonal on that.
Yeah. I know she spent a lot of time
Wow.
writing the history a few years ago.
We need to get that for Dean because we hope to write, he's going to do some primary research so we can get a history book
Yeah.
for the
Which
city.
should help.
Yeah, that's a great starting point. Thank you. Boy, glad you mentioned it.